What's up, everybody? These past few years have been huge for gaming, and this year alone we got Horizon Forbidden West, Modern Warfare 2, God of War Ragnarok, and a whole lot more stuff. But with all the glitz and glamour of these big budget AAA titles, it can be easy to forget about some of the smaller games that were, kind of lost in the shuffle, man, lost in the rush. Underrated games that deserve a little more love than they get. A lot more, actually. And today, we're going to talk about 5 of my favorites. I'm Journo Skills, and this is 5 of my favorite underrated games of the past few years. First up, we got Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch, which was released in 2001 for the PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and Microsoft Windows. Developed by T Games or TI Games. I hope I got at least one of those right. And published by Microids and Bilibili. Fist is a 3D style platformer that follows the adventures of Rayton, or Ray for short, who is a anthropomorphic rabbit in a world full of anthropomorphic animals. And he's also a war veteran. And he uses a giant mechanical fist to try and liberate Torch City from an oppressive legion of robotic dogs. The story is standard dystopian fare, but it's held up by some really compelling characters, man, and some slightly above average voice acting. It ain't no Oscar material, but it gets the job done. And as you can see, this game is absolutely gorgeous, man, with some nice textures, a rough and gritty aesthetic that not only makes the world look believable and lived in, but also complements the story's dark and serious tone. Now, when it comes to music, this game slaps in a major way. Every song featured in the soundtrack is pure magic and fits every location and encounter perfectly. Now, on the gameplay front, the controls are tight and responsive, which is important considering the number of tough platform sections that occur later in the game, man. Things get pretty dicey, so I'm just warning you up front. And when it comes to combat, Ray's arm can be outfitted with several modifications such as a drill and a whip. Now, these mods can be strengthened through an upgrade system and by completing some pretty tough training challenges, both of which give Ray access to some devastating attacks. Now, each hit has an appropriate sense of weight depending on which weapon you use, and it is extremely satisfying. My personal favorite is Ray's starting weapon, the good old giant fist. Each weapon also has secondary functions that allow Ray to open up different parts of the map and access secret areas containing stuff like money to purchase new items, collectibles, data disks, which are necessary for upgrades, and vials that increase your health and special meters. And when it comes down to it, Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch, it ain't really breaking any new ground when it comes to these Metroidvania type titles, but it doesn't really need to. It's a solid game with some really good visuals, some heavy-hitting combat, and fun platforming. And it's backed by a story that fans of dystopian narratives, will probably gravitate towards. So if you never played it, go ahead and give it a try. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Released in 2017 for the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Microsoft Windows, Rime is an adventure puzzle game developed by Tequila Works and published by Greybox and 6foot. In this game, you play as a young boy who, after being lost at sea, washes up on a mysterious island littered with ancient ruins. And guided by a mystical fox, our protagonist explores a massive landscape to unravel its many secrets by solving puzzles, finding collectibles, and engaging in simple platforming challenges. Now, there are no traditional enemies to speak of in this game, so there are no real threats to thwart you while you're exploring to your heart's content. Visually, the game features a cel-shaded style similar to games like The Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. And while simple in nature, the visuals give the game a certain timeless charm that will never age. The music is also in a similar vein. It's a bit understated, I'll say. It's more concerned with complementing the mysterious nature of this island more than being something that you're going to remember years from now. And controls and animation are on point. Though occasionally the camera goes rogue, especially when you're swimming, but that's far from a deal breaker. This game is a overall easy and laid back experience, and that includes the puzzles, though a handful of them might require you to think a bit obliquely, but it's nothing that's going to stump you for hours. In conclusion, Rime is the perfect game for someone who wants a nice little break from the more hardcore titles out there. Now, if anything I said about this game appeals to you, I suggest giving it a shot. There's a lot to like about it. Next up, we have Timbo the Badass Elephant. Released in 2015 for the PS4, Xbox One, and Microsoft Windows, this 2D platformer was developed by Game Freak and published by Sega. In this game, you play as Timbo, an elephant and retired war hero who goes on a journey to stop an evil army known as Phantom from taking over Shell City. The story does not get any deeper than that, but it doesn't need to. It gives us a reason to run down enemy soldiers, save civilians, and smash everything in sight. Visually, this game lures you in with this cute and colorful aesthetic, make you think it's going to be a breezy little adventure. But don't be fooled. This game gets pretty tough in the later levels, which requires players to master its controls. And speaking of controls, Timbo's are tight and responsive. He can charge, flutter jump, ground pound, and spray water from his trunk to extinguish flaming objects and enemies. And there's a sense of weight to each of Timbo's movements, a heaviness which is to be expected. He's a 7-ton elephant, and the controls perfectly reflect that. This means players will have to consider their momentum as they progress through levels and defeat bosses. If you try to move too fast, you'll end up slamming trunk first into one of the game's many environmental hazards and projectile spewing enemies. Patience and precision are the keys to success, and even then it won't be easy. But if you're looking for a solid 2D platformer with good action and gorgeous visuals, you could do a lot worse than our boy Timbo. Road 96 is a small, low-key adventure game with a massively addictive gameplay loop. It was developed and published by DigixArt in 2021 for Microsoft Windows and Nintendo Switch, and in 2022 it was ported to the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. The story takes place in the 90s. You play as several teenage hitchhikers attempting to flee the fictional dictatorship known as Petria. To accomplish this, you must travel hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles to cross Petria's heavily guarded border, avoiding cops, criminals, and assassins, in addition to fighting hunger and weariness. The game is presented in a first-person perspective and features numerous procedurally generated locations to explore, from trailer parks and forests to bars and parties. These small maps are filled with useful items such as money, tools, and food used to replenish your health, as well as collectible cassette tapes that you can play in one of the game's many tape players scattered throughout these maps. As players progress through the story, they'll interact with a variety of weird and colorful characters whose histories and stories are gradually revealed over the course of the campaign. The gameplay mainly consists of dialogue choices which impact the story in various ways. Some are mostly harmless, while others can carry dire consequences. Moral decisions are also a major gameplay component. Stealing versus not stealing, lying versus telling the truth, and so on. These choices can have a huge effect on the future of Petria, so it pays to be careful about what you do and say, just like in real life. On the graphical front, this game adopts a minimalist art style, with simple character models and bold colors that lend it a cartoonish appearance. It can almost be considered cute, but as with Timbo, do not be fooled. While this game doesn't show any graphic violence, it doesn't shy away from adult themes. This is most certainly not a kid's game. The music is good too, featuring some nice atmospheric traps that perfectly complement each situation you find yourself in over the course of the game. There are also what may or may not be licensed songs peppered throughout the game. All of them are great. Good stuff, man. Real good stuff. Overall, if you're looking for a unique little game that focuses on character choices and all that good stuff, the character related stuff, check out Road 96 and fight the powers that be. And last but not least, we have The Forgotten City. This first-person mystery game was developed by Modern Storyteller and published by Dear Villagers. It actually started off as a 2015 Skyrim mod and was eventually released in 2021 for Microsoft Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. There's even a version of it for Google Stadia, but we ain't going to talk about that right now. What we are going to talk about, however, is how absolutely phenomenal this title is. Now, since we're dealing with a mystery game, I'll be avoiding spoilers, but trust me when I say the story is crazy, weird, and random in the best ways possible. You play as an amnesiac who is rescued by a stranger after taking a, let's say, involuntary dip in the Tiber River in Italy. Our mysterious savior asks us to search for her friend who went to investigate some nearby ruins but never came back. Inside said ruins, we discover a portal that leads to a Roman settlement thousands of years in the past. Now, this city is nestled deep underground and houses a handful of characters, all of whom are trapped within its walls. As the player explores the city, speaks with NPCs, and completes quests, it's discovered that said city is under the protection of mysterious gods who have established the Golden Rule, a set of standards that all citizens must follow, such as no killing, no stealing, etc. If any citizen breaks these rules, including the player, the entire city will be condemned to destruction. The player is able to utilize time loops in order to return to a point in time before the Golden Rule was broken and attempt to prevent the violation from happening. By doing this, the player hopes to discover a way to escape the city. Graphically, the game sticks closely to its Skyrim roots, but in my opinion looks better, especially in terms of textures and lighting. The voice acting is on point. Every character speaks his or her lines with confidence, conviction, and believability, and the music, while a bit subdued, sets the mood for the game's mysterious atmosphere. Just all around good visuals and sound. Good stuff, great stuff. In terms of gameplay, it's just standard first-person affair with responsive, intuitive controls, but with minimal combat. You'll spend most of your time exploring the city, collecting items and documents to aid in your adventure, and most importantly, speaking with the locals. These characters are all unique with their own backstories, hopes, and desires, and most have a lot to say. The information they give you is the key to unlocking the mysteries of the city, in addition to enriching its already meaty lore. So talk to everyone as much as you can, and don't skip out on the various dialogue choices they present. The Forgotten City is like the best Elder Scrolls quest you've ever played. Because it basically is. I'm telling you, if you have not played this game and you love a good mystery, do yourself a favor and give it a try. It is well worth your time. And that's it, my friends. My list of 5 underrated games that deserve more attention. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And if you have any other games that you consider to be underrated, go ahead and talk about them in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.